In a faraway corner of the African savanna, where the sun kissed the golden grasslands and the wind sang through the acacia trees, there was a lion cub born unlike any other. His name was Simba, and though he looked like every other lion cub, fluffy mane, amber eyes, strong paws, there was one thing missing. Simba couldn't roar. No matter how hard he tried, all that came out was a squeaky whisper, like the wind rustling through dry leaves. His parents, King Baraka and Queen Zalika, were worried but hoped it was only a matter of time. Some cubs are late bloomers, Zalika would say as she nuzzled him gently. One day, you'll roar louder than the thunder. But the days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months, and still, Simba remained silent. The other lion cubs would mock him during play. "Simba the Silent," they chanted, laughing as he chased his tail in frustration. Simba's heart ached, not just from the teasing, but from the sense that something inside him was locked away. His father tried to teach him. "A lion's roar comes from deep within," Baraka would rumble. "It is your soul speaking." But Simba didn't know how to speak with his soul. One night, under the bright African moon, Simba snuck away from. Pride rocked, he wandered into the tall grass, determined to find his voice, even if it meant traveling far beyond the lands he knew. Along his journey, he met a wise old tortoise named Kijani. Kijani had lived through many seasons and seen many strange things in the wild. "Why does a lion cub travel alone in the dark?" the tortoise asked, blinking slowly. Simba sighed, "Because I have no roar. And a lion without a roar is no lion at all." Kijani chuckled. "Ah, young one, sometimes silence is the beginning of wisdom. But I don't want to be wise." Simba snapped. "I want to be heard." The tortoise slowly nodded and turned away. "Then you must follow the path of echoes." "Path of echoes?" Simba asked, puzzled. "It begins where the Baobab trees whisper to the wind and ends where the mountains hum. Many have sought it. Few have listened well enough to hear." Simba, though unsure, followed the old tortoise's direction and headed east, where ancient baobab trees towered like sleeping giants. As he walked beneath their broad limbs, he paused. The wind whistled faintly through the branches, almost like a lullaby. "Is this what he meant?" Simba whispered. A soft voice responded from the trees. "Not quite, but you're close." Startled, Simba looked up to see a chattering bird with feathers as blue as the sky. "Who are you?" he asked. "Zula, the songbird of the ancient forest. You seek your roar, do you not?" Simba nodded eagerly. "Can you help me find it?" "Perhaps, but only if you're willing to listen more than you speak." Simba frowned. That seemed backward. Weren't roars about power, not silence? Zula flitted around him. "Every sound begins in silence. The loudest roar is born from the quietest truth." Intrigued, Simba followed Zula deeper into the trees, where the light dimmed and shadows danced. There, he met creatures he'd never seen, silent. Frogs that blinked instead of croaked, lizards that sang in gestures, and flowers that echoed feelings. Days passed as Simba stayed in the forest, learning to feel instead of forcing sound. One morning, while watching the dew tremble on a leaf, something shifted in Simba's chest. He felt the world around him, not just saw it. A warmth spread from his paws to his heart, and in that moment, he opened his mouth. A sound came out. Not a roar, not yet, but something deeper. A tone like the earth rumbling before rain. Zula smiled. "You found the route. Now you must climb the mountain." "Which mountain?" "The one that hums," she whispered, and took off into the sky. Simba left the forest and wandered toward the highlands he had only seen from a distance. The journey was hard. He crossed rivers filled with crocodiles, climbed hills teeming with snakes, and braved dry lands where hyenas laughed in the shadows. But Simba did not turn back. At the base of the tallest peak, he found an old leopard named Jabari meditating beside a waterfall. "Why have you come, lion cub?" Jabari asked without opening his eyes. "To find my roar," Simba answered. "Then climb and listen, but do not roar until the mountain hums back." Simba climbed. The higher he went, the more the wind roared for him. At the summit, the world stretched wide below him, but no sound came from the mountain. Simba waited and waited. For 3 days, he sat in silence. On the third night, when the stars shimmered like ancient spirits, he heard it. A deep, low hum. Like 1,000 drums buried in the earth, the mountain was alive. Simba opened his mouth and let out a roar, not loud, but full of the world's heartbeat. The mountain responded with a rumble. For the first time, Simba didn't just make a sound. He spoke the language of the land. With his spirit renewed, Simba descended. As he returned, animals whispered about the lion whose voice could move trees and stir rivers. Back in the savannah, Simba was no longer the cub who couldn't roar. But he didn't boast. He listened more than he spoke, and when he roared, all of nature paused to hear. His parents wept with joy upon his return. "Your roar," his mother whispered. "It carries more than sound." Simba nuzzled her gently. "Because it carries everything I've learned." The other cubs were stunned. Gone was the timid, mocked Simba. In his place stood a lion of presence and power. He shared stories of the whispering forest, the singing mountain, and the truth behind silence. Some believed, others laughed, but all listened when he spoke. As seasons passed, King Baraka grew old, and Simba became the lion of the land. But unlike his father, Simba ruled differently. He didn't rely on roars to show his strength. He listened to the pain of the antelope, the dreams of the birds, and the songs of the wind. And when conflict arose, he would sit quietly first, as he had on the mountain, waiting to understand before responding. The land thrived under his rule. Predators and prey found unexpected harmony. Even the hyenas, once banished, returned in peace. One day, a young cheetah cub approached Simba. "Is it true you couldn't roar when you were my age?" Simba smiled. "It is. But now, your roar shakes the sky. Because I learned not to shout into silence," he said, "but to listen until the world gave me back my voice." The cheetah cub tilted its head. "Will I have to lose my voice to find it?" "Not everyone's journey is the same," Simba replied. "But every great voice begins in the quiet." The cub nodded and ran off, pondering his words. That night, as Simba watched the stars with his mate, Nia, he felt peace. "Do you miss the silence?" she asked softly. "Sometimes," he admitted. "It taught me more than noise ever could." A wind blew across the plains, brushing the grasses like an old friend. Simba closed his eyes and let it carry him back to the Baobab forest, to the tortoise, the songbird, and the mountain. His roar was not just his, it belonged to them all. When Simba's firstborn son was born, the land held its breath. The cub was strong, but like his father, silent. "He doesn't roar," the animals whispered. Simba only smiled. "He will, when he's ready." The cub, named Sephu, grew curious about his father's stories. One day, he asked, "Father, where did your roar come from?" Simba leaned close. "From the deepest silence and the highest mountain." Sephu blinked. "Can I go there?" "You will, when the time comes." 106. As Sephu grew, he too was teased for his quietness. Simba watched, never interfering, but always nearby. And when Sephu set off on his own, Simba only gave him one piece of advice: listen to everything, even what cannot be heard. Sephu traveled paths similar and different from his father's. That he spoke to elephants, followed butterflies, and danced with the rain. Eventually, he too found his voice, not a roar like thunder, but a song like sunrise. Back in the savannah, Simba listened to his son's melody, proud and grateful. The pride grew in wisdom and strength, becoming legends whispered across lands. Other animals came to learn, not just how to roar, but how to listen. Elders taught their young, "Before you speak, know your silence." And thus, a legacy was born, not of fear, but of understanding. The tale of Simba, the lion who could not roar, spread across generations. It was told beside fires, under stars, in caves and open plains. Some said his roar split the earth. Others said it healed it. But all agreed, his roar came from within. The baobab trees still whispered his name. The mountains still hummed when lions roared in truth. And in every lion's heart, the echo of Simba lived on. Even the tortoise, Kijani, now older and slower, would smile when told the tale. He listened, he'd say. That's what made him great. When Simba grew old and returned to the mountain, he roared one last time. The wind wept. The trees bowed. The mountain answered. And then Simba laid down beneath the stars, his heart still and full. The savannah mourned, but also sang, for their king had not just ruled, he had taught them to hear. Sephu became king, and like his father, listened before roaring. And so the line continued, not of loud rulers, but wise ones. Generations passed, but the story lived on. It became more than legend. It became law. To lead is not to shout the loudest, the lions would teach. It is to hear the unheard. And every lion cub, at some point, would wonder what their roar meant. The answer, always, was found in stillness, in the dance of leaves, in the song of birds, in the hush of night. For it was there that Simba once listened. And there, he found the world waiting to speak back. The lion who couldn't roar became the lion whose voice echoed forever. Across plains and time, his story endured, not for the sound he made, but for what he taught in silence. And in every whispered breeze, every tremble of the earth, his spirit remained. For silence, as Simba,